And welcome to episode 45 of the Beantown Banter podcast. As always, joined by Patrick Donnelly. I'm Brady Gardner. Patrick, how's it going?
Pretty tired. Big weekend ahead of us, but the show must go on.
The show must go on. I feel like we say this every single week. We're like, Patrick, how are we? And you're like, exhausted. And I'm like, all right, we'll press through it. But that's what we're doing. All right, this is the dead of the summer, but we are coming at you with weekly episodes as always. We're, if anything, we're consistent. So that's good. And as I talk about consistency, we have a relatively inconsistent schedule right now as we uploaded last on a Friday. Now we're recording here on a Wednesday. Is what it is, and we move on. Anyway, enough of all of that, complaints and excuses and whatever. Let's get along with the sports, shall we? So let's start with the Boston Red Sox. As you could expect, today the MLB trade deadline came and went. We'll address that plenty, I'm sure. Patrick, would you like to start on the positive side or the negative side? Good news or bad news?
I mean, is there really any positives for the Red Sox out of this deadline?
I'm not just talking about the deadline here. I'm talking about since we last spoke. Positives that we might have.
There's not many.
All right, so we'll get them out of the way.
They won the game that we were talking about as we recorded, 10-5.
Correct.
They won the next night, 9-5. Now they lost 2 in a row, and they're getting slapped tonight.
That's right.
So, I mean, there's only one positive note. That's one win, and everything else is a negative. They did nothing at the deadline. They got clapped by the Yankees in the fourth game of the series, 9-6. They lost a heartbreaker to the Rays where they teased us with another comeback, 6-5. And now they're losing 6-2 to the Rays, and things look pretty bleak.
There you go. On to the Patriots. Now, I think, what was that?
Pretty much. That's the surface level of it. That's, that's the bare bones.
I don't want to skip over that Yankees series, though, because I do think that you had a bit of a hidden meaning in all of that, right? So, as you mentioned, you got some good run support really all series long, well, at least through the first 3 games. Even in the fourth, you still put up 6 runs, so not terrible. But you got the bats were going against the Yankees, so you're proving that even with the big names that they have out of that bullpen and kind of some of the hard throwers that they have, you're not afraid of them. You still got 2 runs off of Aroldis Chapman in his only appearance, which came on Sunday. So I think going 3 for 4 against the Yankees, yes, you're still 9 games back. You're not catching them anytime soon. I think we can write that off pretty much. But it shows that you can still play with the Yankees. And, granted, I feel like there's so many asterisks here. But, they didn't have Brett Gardner. They didn't have Gary Sanchez. They weren't totally at full strength. But you still, tossed them around in the first 2 games, even the third one a little bit with the 9-5 win. I think if you're the Red Sox, you're not afraid of the Yankees. And given how the season has gone, that's a pretty big positive. The one kind of drawback there, well, yeah, I guess you can see it both ways. So the 3 wins came with your bottom 3 rotation guys, Porcello, Cashner, Rodriguez. So your bottom 3 guys got it done with the 3 wins. Then you get to the top with Chris Sale to finish off the sweep, and he can't do it. 2 home runs. I think he walked 4 batters. They all came in to score. It was a stat like that where the walks really just killed him. And he said it in the postgame. All the momentum that they had got, he took the wind right out of the sails. Ironic. Little pun intended right there. He just kind of killed it there at the end with the ugly start. They tried to come back at the end, but just could not get it done, even though they threatened in like every inning after the 6th. Just left a little bit to be desired. But I guess that's where we are with Chris Sale right now. So it did bring up the debate, Patrick, because obviously you're destined for the wild card at this point. If you get to the wild card game, who right now is the starter for that game?
That's a tough question.
It is.
I mean, if we're gonna just base it off numbers and performance, you gotta say David Price. But
what have you done for me lately?
But I mean, this season he has been your best pitcher. But I mean, if you're talking about specifically looking at this season, boom or bust scenario, it's a pretty high reward, kind of medium risk if you throw Chris Sale in there.
Yeah.
I think those are the 2 guys it would come down to. I mean, I'd be fine with either one of them, but maybe it's What have you done? It's another what have you done for me lately when the time comes.
That's right. If the wildcard game was tomorrow, I'd say Eduardo Rodriguez get out there, and he's your number 4 guy usually. So that's just kind of shows you where they are with these Red Sox starters right now, and it got really no better today at the deadline. And this is where the negative comes in because you look at it, and since the very beginning, we've noticed your bullpen needs help. All right, your starters are not getting it done. You're putting too much weight on the bullpen. They can't sustain it. Sure enough, you're losing games in the bullpen even when your bats show up. You go into the trade deadline today. There are bullpen arms seemingly available. Nothing. Nothing at all. Patrick, your reaction?
Frustrating is a little bland.
Yes.
But a little too tired to get fired up. We'll see. We'll see about the Bruins. It's stupid, really. I mean, this has been an issue for 9 months. It's even been the bullpen as a whole has been an issue for like 3 years. And specifically a closer has been the issue since October. You knew you probably weren't going to sign Craig Kimbrell because he just wanted a king's ransom and that you weren't going to do that. Okay, so figure it out. Find someone else. You have plenty of money to spend. There's no reason you should be afraid of the luxury tax. You're over it already. I mean, I just don't get it.
Yeah, and you look at some of the comments from Dombrowski today, and I think that's where it really kind of just bothers me because, it's not him saying, if there was an opportunity available, we would have taken it, but we just didn't think that any of the deals would have gone our way. Like, then that's okay. At least you surveyed the market, at least you saw what you could get, and you decided, you know what, I'll hold off. The way he was talking in his press conference today, it seemed like he didn't even take a look at it. He said, like, I have guys calling me about my relievers. Like, they all send some commodities. Like, Heath Hembry is going to be traded away. Like, if someone's coming into the package for Heath Hembry at the deadline, please take it. Like,
no, it's like, don't lie to me, Dave. I mean,
exactly.
How stupid do you think we are? Know your market. You're not in Detroit anymore.
Correct. And that's where it gets annoying.
This is Boston. I don't know. I mean, Detroit, I'm sure it's not a completely out of touch market because Detroit was good for the time he was there.
How about Miami?
Well, come on. It's like, don't lie to us, Dave. Don't talk to us like we're a bunch of fools. We know for a fact nobody was calling for Heath Hembry. Nobody was calling for Matt Barnes. Nobody wanted. No one probably wants Nathan Eovaldi with that contract and that arm. I mean, I'm as big of a Eovaldi guy there is, but no way.
Yeah, it's not great.
I mean, and it's stupid. That's the word I keep going back to. It's just silly.
It is silly. So we'll see how it goes. I mean, you look at them. Go ahead.
I mean, when he's talking about guys calling him, it's making it seem like he wanted to sell.
A little bit.
All right. Well, it's like this team is at least one piece away. At least. And that's a closer.
Yeah.
I mean, at the very least, solving your closer issue can help you maneuver things around to try and mask the other issues in that bullpen. Where, like, say you can move Eovaldi into that maybe 8th inning spot, which seems to always be a problem ever since who was the guy they had for the one season, Addison Reed, where he actually locked it down and they didn't pay him, because that just seems to be a recurring trend around here.
There you go.
But and it's also that, and kind of like zigzagging here. I mean, we've seen in the past where it was Anderson Espinoza for Drew Pomeranz. So I mean, like, it was kind of a lose-lose for both sides here, as Pomeranz sucked and Espinoza hasn't done anything of note. He's only in the Padres' top 30, so it doesn't look like he's panning out the way people thought. But it's like, come on, we know you're not afraid to deal prospects here. Our farm system's pretty much decimated because of that. You did the same thing in Detroit, so put an effort in.
That's exactly it.
Like, if this team is win now, which everyone knows they are, and everyone knows they're contenders and they're one piece away because they won the damn thing last year. Sorry to be blunt, folks. They went out and won the whole thing. Come on, do something.
That's right. And I think that whole, we won it last year is just really taking the team away, because you hear it night in, night out, in the locker room, on the NESN broadcast, just, if you look at the way they did it in 2018, it's like, well, this is 2019, And we've been saying this all year. You got to turn the page because any other team, you got Bill Belichick down at training camp right now saying, well, I'm just focused on this team. The 6 rings are great, but, we're looking for that 7th. That's the mentality you need to have, and it feels like they haven't had that all year. And so the way I look at it is you saw last season we had all these questions about their bullpen, and they didn't really do much. Yes, the Evaldi acquisition ended up becoming kind of a bullpen help in the end, even though he's taken in as a starter. Does that look like Andrew Kashner? Although it's hard to imagine Kashner turning out like Evaldi. Don't think he has the same stuff, really. But regardless, it just feels like they're saying, oh, well, we got through it with a terrible bullpen last year, and we had guys, step up when they needed to, Joe Kelly and whoever else, Brazier, whatever. And who's to say that that's not going to happen again this year? That seems like what they're going with, and that just seems like a big roll of the dice to me. I feel like there were opportunities there to bring in guys. I think, you do have more to deal out than you may have thought. I think Jackie Bradley Jr. is very expendable right now, but I say that all the time. I think Chavis, if anything, he's had a hot year, but does he really fit in somewhere? I'm not sure. You've got Bobby Dalbec down, who's all of a sudden a top 100 prospect, and he's not going anywhere because he's a third baseman, and you got Devers at third base, and he's only 22 years old. Just feels like there are guys worth something that you could have moved, and we didn't. I don't know what it is.
And, even then, you talk about last year versus this year, and it's, guys, teams are way better than they were last year. The Yankees, on paper, have a much better roster than last year. Right. The Astros brought back pretty much the same team and only got better. They added Zach Greinke, for Christ's sake. The Indians got better. We talk about the Indians all the time, choking it away constantly. But they're actually made a play, and it was kind of shocking they gave up Trevor Bauer. I guess things were a little testy there between him and management. But either way, they gave up that talent and still got a pretty solid haul for him. They got Puig and Reyes and more than that.
That's right. So you look, and that's a nice segue for us, Patrick, because you look at some of these other moves around the league, and you see there are guys that are in contention with the Red Sox right now that are making changes. We saw, Cleveland, like you just said, adding Yasiel Puig. Believe it or not, even though they just got rid of their best pitcher, Indians still holding on to the top wild card spot, and they're the 2 games up on the Rays, who are just outside of a spot right now. They also add another outfielder, Franmil Reyes, and a right-handed pitcher, and then an infielder, neither of which I know the names of, so maybe just little pieces, who knows. Meanwhile, Oakland, 2 pitchers, get some pitching help. Tampa Bay, you have Eric Sogard, who's had a great year out in Toronto. Now he's joining them as an infielder for the Rays. They got a hard-hitting right-handed batter, Jesus Aguilar, and then they added 2 right-handed pitchers as well. So you look at these teams that are above you right now in the wild card race, and they're improving. They're adding pieces. They're getting better. And you can't say the same. They would maybe advertise it as we're adding a healthy Nathan Evaldi and whatever else. But is that going to be enough? Because it feels like we've been treading water for a long time, saying, well, the Sox will turn it around and they'll get a wild card spot. But you didn't really change anything big. So who's to say that the next 2 months here, August, September, it's going to be a different story than it has been all year, where you have been good but not good enough. And that's what's kind of scary there. They might not even be in a playoff spot in 2 months.
Exactly. It's frustrating.
It is. And I think the
3 words I keep going back to, which is how this bullpen roster's been managed, is frustrating, stupid, and silly.
Yes. So I think what I was going to say is the one kind of area that this falls on the most will be starting pitching. All right? Because now you don't have the bullpen arm to, back you up. You don't have a guy who's, proven and he can come in for the 5th inning if you need him, or the 8th inning if you need him. He can even close, like someone that they could have got at the deadline. Nope, you don't have one of those. So, just got to get those top 3 guys, Sale, Price, Porcello, performing consistently and getting wins themselves. And tonight, Porcello has not done that. He has, I believe, 6 earned runs. It was a pretty funny night for Porcello. He gave up a run in the 1st inning, went back to the dugout, punched 2 TV screens right next to each other, came back out 2nd inning, 1st pitch, home run. So not a great night for Rick Porcello, and just a sign of the snowball just rolling down the hill for the Sox right now. And these are big games against Tampa Bay, because right now they're just outside the bubble there for the wild card spot, as Cleveland and Oakland currently hold the 2, and the Sox 2 games out of a wild card spot right now. Not pretty. These are the games need to be winning, and right now they're down 6-2 in the 6th inning. It's not good.
Exactly. Nope.
I did one last thing is I have noticed kind of just through watching this game as on right now, obviously, you kind of see a little bit of a difference there in some of the body language, and that's a little concerning to me because, like I said, Porcello punching two TVs, usually a pretty level-headed guy. We've seen Xander Bogaerts. He's popped out twice in this game. Both times he's kind of flung the bat off to the side. That's something you don't see from Bogaerts very much. You've seen Andrew Benintendi kind of slamming down his helmet more often than usual when he strikes out and in a big spot. You've seen Devers looking frustrated at times. Like guys who usually kind of keep their cool, all of a sudden looking a little frustrated. And I wonder if that's because they feel like the front office is leaving them out to dry a little bit.
No, that's exactly it.
Hmm.
That's the perfect read. I mean, it's clear to diagnose the issues on this team. It's clear as day. There's no, well, they have the roster and they have the offensive power. They're just not clicking. No,
Right.
it's anyone who has a remote knowledge of baseball or sports in general can diagnose the issues with this team, and it's the lack of quality pitching night in and night out.
Yeah, it's tough right now for the Sox. And, by the looks of it, doesn't feel like it's going to get too much better because they were just talking on the NESN broadcast about how, the Rays have a really good stretch ahead and they should be able to pick up plenty of wins here in August. So that's not going to help your case at all. Of course, you have New York on the list coming up this weekend. You're heading down to the Bronx, so that will be more difficult than hosting them in Fenway last weekend where it went so well. You do have a couple easier ones with Kansas City and LA coming up, but then right back into it with a 3-game series against Cleveland, who, although it feels like they're selling some parts, still ahead of you at the end of the day. So it's a little tricky for the Sox right now, I gotta say, and it feels like every single time we're up and we're down. Last week I had the Red Sox hat on, and I was like, everything's great, we're beating the Yankees, and now it's like we can't even get by the Rays, and there's no reason to be optimistic about it going forward based on the deadline. It's tricky stuff right now. While we're on the topic of the MLB, I would like to get your thoughts, Patrick, on some of the other big moves that went on. We saw a couple days ago Marcus Stroman headed from Toronto to the Mets of all teams. Would you take anything out of that?
It was interesting. I didn't think the Mets were doing as well as they were. I mean, they're kind of in the hunt for a wild card spot.
Yeah.
I stress kind of.
Yes.
I thought they were gonna flip him.
That's what I thought.
It was interesting to see the return for Toronto. It was solid, but it was kind of it was good nonetheless, but it was a little bit of that's it.
Right.
After all the hype we had about this guy getting traded, that's it.
Exactly. I think the that's it mentality is kind of just the way it was all throughout the entire deadline here. We considered doing a podcast right across the deadline, but I'm kind of glad we didn't because there really were not that many fireworks. You did see the Bauer for Puig trade, which will be interesting in terms of Puig coming to Cleveland because that's the team you could end up against, and he's always a fun player to have around. As for Trevor Bauer heading to Cincinnati, can't say he's going to be doing too much out there because I'm not sure how serious they really are. Any other?
It's interesting to me too.
What was that?
That was interesting to me too. That Cincinnati goes and acquires an ace in the middle of his prime when they're not that close.
That's right. Who knows? Maybe they got big plans, but I don't know.
Flip them in the offseason.
One of the biggest ones of the day was actually done by Houston with Zach Greinke, the real journeyman. He's been all over the place. It seems like he's always switching teams. But he's going to the Astros, who already have a very solid pitching staff. Does that make you any more concerned about the Astros going forward, or you think the Red Sox bats can take care of them just the way they have almost everybody that they've come up against?
No.
I don't think so either.
I was surprised to see them get by Houston last year. I mean, I said they would, but I didn't it was one of those things where you say it, but you didn't really believe it.
There you go.
Because just Houston's it's more than a three-headed monster. You look at their lineup between Bregman, Correa, and Altuve, and more, and then you look at the pitching staff, and it's insane.
Mm-hmm.
And most of it's homegrown. It's crazy.
That's right. You also look in the NL a little bit, and you had one of the really only salvageable parts from that awful Tigers team with Nick Castellanos heading to the Chicago Cubs. You also saw Mark Melancon, who the Sox had for a cup of tea, as you would say, Patrick. He's going to the Braves. Adam Kolarek went from the Rays to the Dodgers, just kind of going down the list here. Houston added 2 more pitchers in a deal for Derek Fisher, also going to Toronto. Toronto very big in this deadline, which is a little unexpected. And then I think just 2 of the other names to mention, Patrick, are Noah Syndergaard and Madison Bumgarner, both of which will be staying with the Mets and Giants, respectively. So I think that was pretty surprising. Did you see either of those guys going anywhere, or how do you feel about them sticking around?
I honestly didn't give much thought to Bumgarner. Syndergaard's whole situation is weird to me. I mean, in the same sense, so is Bumgarner, where like the talent's there, they're really good pitchers when they're on, but I mean the injuries and then just inconsistency the last few years has made it interesting. And I think it's made their value hard to gauge
right
on the market, and I guess that's part of why they stayed put.
That's right. And I think both of these guys would have been great fits for the Yankees. So I'm almost happy that they stayed put because, you look at them and I guess for Bumgarner, right, he's a consistent starter. He's definitely got a competitive spirit, and maybe too much so at times. And he, has a knack for winning in the postseason. And the Yankees could really use that based on how awful their rotation has looked, especially in the playoffs at times. And then you look at Syndergaard. He's another guy who throws absolute missiles. And if they could re-sign him, that's a big guy to have for a long time as well. Of course, 2 guys with long hair, so who knows how that would go in New York with their whole deal down there. But kind of glad that we're not going to see them in pinstripes anytime soon. So the Yankees didn't add, Red Sox didn't add. Yankees still up here, Red Sox still down here. But we'll see how it ends up here this week. At this point, it's kind of just Red Sox trying to pick up wins any way they can. And if it comes against the Yankees, all the better, really. Anyway, with that, I think we can move along to the let's go with Patriots. Is that all right?
Yeah, I mean, slow news day on the other 3.
It definitely is a slow news day, so that's why it's all right that we went a little heavy on baseball today with the deadline. But looking at the Patriots, not too much news, as you kind of mentioned there. Interestingly enough, the NFL Top 100 is, I think, releasing their top 10 players within the next half hour here. And I think Tom Brady and Drew Brees are still on the board. Does that surprise you at all?
That they're still on the board and they're going to be in the
those are the top 2 quarterbacks.
No.
No?
No.
Even with all the Mahomes hype that we've seen in the last year?
Kind of not really. I mean, I see this is NFL.com, correct?
Yeah.
I see those writers seeing how Brady and Brees have aged like fine wines, and we'll see how Mahomes does this year. We'll see if he can do it for more than 1 year. Because they're basing it off 1 year sample size, kid.
True. It's a good point. I'm frantically Googling here, trying to make sure it hasn't already been released and we're not just missing it, but maybe this is the kind of thing we come back to the end of the show because I believe it's airing on NFL Network right as we speak. Anyway, speaking of Tom Brady news, he had a bit of an interesting comment with the press. Would you like to take this one?
That he's bulking up.
There it is.
Well, the only news of the day with the Patriots, Tom Brady said he had a specific goal in mind for this year's training camp, and that was adding strength. Quote, I wanted to get a little bit bigger this year and put on a few more pounds and try to absorb the hits a little bit more, he said Wednesday, addressing local reporters for the first time. This is from Mike Reese's article on ESPN. I worked pretty hard at that, end quote. It's not that interesting to me. Because we know he stresses pliability and endurance. And, those are all great, and it's worked well for him the last few years. But I think with the age, you might need the added muscle for the durability.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And in terms of keeping the arm strength up.
Mm-hmm. I think we're seeing the Patriots, as they're always so good with doing, they're evolving here. I think we're seeing it with Tom, putting on some muscle here to try to compensate for the harder hits that he's been taking and the older body. I think, it does make sense for him to try to bulk up a little bit to, take off some of the burden of those hits, because we did see it kind of take its toll last season. And then kind of along similar lines, we have also seen here in this training camp just a little bit looser of a style from, Bill Belichick and the veterans. And I think this is a little bit kind of going off of what happened last year, where it seemed like, Bill Belichick Country Club down there after what he did with Malcolm Butler, and all of a sudden he seemed so much better to the players in 2018 training camp. Obviously, we saw how that ended up. They won the Super Bowl, so no reason not to do it again this year. But, you got Tom Brady taking a veteran day off on the second day of training camp, which is like, what? But whatever, do what you need to do. You see Michael Bennett not showing up for the first few days because he has a family situation down in Hawaii, takes a flight directly from Hawaii to Boston, comes right to practice. So I guess that shows you something. But pretty crazy that Belichick even let that happen in the first place, knowing the way that he's been in previous years. And now you got Belichick being all buddy-buddy with Willie McGinnis in a press conference in the middle of training camp. It just feels different down there. But do you think all this kind of more relaxed style, as we kind of, I guess, transition into a different topic a little bit, but do you think having this kind of more flexible training camp is better overall?
It's a great question. I'm not sure. You don't?
I do, for sure.
Oh, you do?
I think it's great.
Okay.
Because this is the sports world we live in. It's dominated by the players. The players are going to get babied as much as they want, but if they're happy and if they're healthy, then they're going to perform. So do what you need to do for them.
Take notes, NHL.
Well, the NHL is the one sport that's still a little bit behind in that, because you see it in baseball and
the most personality-less league on the planet.
Yeah. You're never gonna be totally satisfied with that one, are you?
No, I mean, good thing we got the kids coming, starting to show it. Mitch Marner needs to be signed. That's on the personality note.
There you go.
Mitch Marner is in the crowd, then we're fine.
Mm-hmm.
That's someone with personality. I mean, never mind. Not to change subjects, but yes, this is the modern sports world.
Yep.
Where players don't have to give the cookie cut answers and shouldn't be afraid to show their personalities. And I mean, we've seen between Brady taking days off and not going to voluntary workouts, prioritizing his family. And this has been happening for 2-3 years now. And he won MVP 2 years ago, and he won the Super Bowl last year. It's what works.
That's right. I could have been wrong earlier, by the way. I think Mahomes might still be on the list as I look at it here. Julio Jones just went at number 9. Antonio Brown, number 7. Can't tell who was number 8, but we're getting down there a little bit. I'll keep an eye on it.
Anyways,
yeah.
He has a case for top 10 either way.
Oh, for sure. Both of them do, I think. But you just kind of helped us into NHL a little bit, so would you like to take it away on some of the Bruins notes of the week? There are very few of, but
yeah. There's nothing much. It's all quiet on the Charlie McAvoy and Brandon Carlo front. But little unrelated to the Bruins, but also related to the Bruins. The Wild fired who is it? The Wild fired Paul Fenton, their GM, after one season. Owner Craig Leopold saying, quote, "not the right fit." So this is a little bit of Craig Leopold, the owner. Smoke and mirrors, believing the Wild are still firmly contenders and he wants them to be a contending team.
Yeah.
We saw last year they're not, and I mean they made the playoffs 6 years in a row before then, and I think they only made it to the second round once or twice. I mean, honestly, even if he didn't say it was the right fit and he wanted the Wild to be contenders, I think firing Fenton was still the right move because, I mean, Craig Leopold sees them as contenders. The rest of the hockey world is not, or at least serious contenders. Maybe they'll push for a wild card spot, but I don't see them as serious contenders. And as a team that should be rebuilding or at least beginning a retool, he hasn't. That's the outsider's perspective. They should be beginning a retool, and the moves he made. I mean, Coyle for Donato. We'll see how Donato ends up. But right now, the Bruins made out like gangbusters. Mm-hmm. You see whether it's he moved Mikael Granlund, who it looked like the Wild had finally found their center. He got Kevin Fiala, which I guess is a good return. if he can find some consistency to his game. But he also traded Nino Niederreiter for Victor Rask, and Niederreiter went to Carolina to light it up right away. And the rumblings came out that Fenton didn't really even test the market on Niederreiter, and Victor Rask just didn't perform at all, and he was having a down year and a half for the Hurricanes. So just puzzling move. And he signed Matt Zuccarello for 5 or 6 years, and Zuccarello's 31. You already have these mega Zach Parise and Ryan Suter deals that are going to run till they're 40, 41, and it's just outrageous moves if you're Paul Fenton. I mean, he didn't give them those deals. That's Chuck Fletcher's fault. Probably the reason we headed for a lockout in 2013, and again with those contracts. Anyways, on the Wild and the Bruins, how do I relate this? Bruins.
Yeah, good Minnesota Wild radio going on right here.
Director of player personnel. I'm not totally sure. I know he's also the GM of the Providence Bruins. He has some right-hand man position with Sweeney, but he is reportedly going to be on the list of interviewees for the Wild. John Ferguson Jr., Leafs fans may know, was the guy that traded Tuukka Rask for Andrew Raycroft straight up. Nothing makes Steve Dangle, Leafs YouTuber Sportsnet, more irate than watching Tuukka Rask make a save, seeing Andrew Raycroft in the TV booth, and the camera panning up to John Ferguson Jr. in the press box. And then last Bruins thing, really, I mean, the Rangers bought out Kevin Shattenkirk today, right-handed offensive defenseman. There was rumblings a couple years ago when he was still in St. Louis before he got dealt to Washington, before he signed in New York, that the Bruins were in on him for a few years. It seemed like Kevin Shattenkirk and Charlie Coyle were always the names you heard. Now it's Chris Kreider. So it'd be interesting to see. I mean, depending on what happens on the McAvoy and Carlo front, I'd be interested to explore Shattenkirk. I mean, I don't know how they'd make the room. Obviously, a bunch of...
in addition to McAvoy and Carlo?
Again, just saying. Say they go into the season with just one or the other.
Oh, okay. So you think Shattenkirk could be cheaper than one of them?
Huh?
You think Shattenkirk could be cheaper than one of them?
Oh, yeah.
So you say you could pay, McAvoy and Shattenkirk, or Carlo and Shattenkirk, but not McAvoy and Carlo. It'd be that kind of deal.
Yeah, unless they happen to make all the necessary moves. But I'm just saying this is a shot in the dark here.
Okay. We love those though.
I think if the Bruins will probably do their homework on him and at least check in. But I don't see it.
Unlike the Red Sox.
Yeah, I don't see it happening really. But I was just saying, just an idea.
Interesting. I like it.
Just a little food for thought.
We like ideas because they're either, crazy and you forget about them, or all of a sudden we look back at this and it was right, 2 months and we think we're geniuses. It's perfect. Right. Is that it for hockey?
That's pretty much it for hockey.
All right. Well, there's not too much else coming from basketball. Looking at the Celtics, we've got a good old Kyrie Irving news, as always, which is just tiring at this point. But Marcus Smart made an appearance on a show, defended Kyrie Irving, said, don't put the blame on him. Who cares at this point? I think we're still dwelling on the past a little bit when we're asking everybody about the whole Kyrie Irving situation. I don't think this was some kind of Marcus Smart testimonial where he went on and said, like, oh, by the way, just want to mention it wasn't on Kyrie. I think he was probably prompted this. I didn't see the clip myself. He was probably prompted it, and he was like, just trying to be the bigger guy here and just say, nah, it wasn't on him. Let's flip the page here and move on to this season because, oh, yeah, we have a new star point guard who might just be a better fit for our team in Kemba Walker. So that was just a little annoying. Like, I'm ready to, kind of give up on this Kyrie Irving guy and never hear about him again, personally. Although he is in your division, so it is what it is.
It'd be tough to not ever hear about him again. So
hear about him as a Celtic again, I suppose.
It's just a recurring theme until the season starts and tip off, and it's going to happen again when they face each other, probably for the next few years. But he was on the jump this morning. The ticker on the bottom says looking forward to guarding Kyrie this year ? So obviously he probably was prompted for it, and it's just Marcus Smart being a team player, not throwing anyone on the bus, and just really falling on the sword for the entire team, like having the entire team fall on the sword. Because say what you want about Kyrie, the entire team underperformed.
Yep, that's what he does. That's why he's on the U.S. national team.
Yep.
And kind of other little bit of news was that Jason Tatum was playing one-on-one with Chris Paul and Bradley Beal, which is okay. I mean, this is what like NBA players do, right? They go out and they play one-on-one, and it doesn't really matter who plays against who because they're probably gonna end up guarding each other in a game and whatever. I guess it's different. Like you would never see, Chris Sale go out and do an at bat against like Aaron Judge, right? I guess that's just one of the unique things about basketball, where you have players from other teams kind of getting together and working out in the off season.
I mean, they're all friends, so.
Yeah, everybody's friends in the NBA, of course.
Pretty much.
Oh.
Unless you're Lance and LeBron.
But
KD and Russ. But by and large, everyone I'd like to think everyone gets along.
That's nice of you. Real optimist, aren't you?
Look for the best in people.
That's great, Patrick. Anyway, we can move along, I think, from the NBA. Not really seeing any national NBA news of note. You don't have anything, right? Before I skip on over?
Only thing I have of national news for all 4 leagues,
yes,
aside from that wild note, is Michael Thomas's contract. Well deserved, highest paid receiver in history. I think he's easily the top wide receiver in the league, and he doesn't get talked about enough. For whatever reason, unless it's around here because he plays in New Orleans, but I mean around here, I don't know how it is on the national level. He is not talked about enough.
Right, I agree. I think the price tag comes a little bit with him sitting out the early stages of training camp here. I think that has a pretty big thing to do with it there. But he definitely deserves the money because he's been a real solid player. It was a great player for my fantasy team last year, got to say. It doesn't hurt that he's catching passes from one of the best quarterbacks in the league.
Would you go as far to say that he is a good player?
Every episode. We get one of these every episode.
I mean,
we just lose our mind the later it goes, and then we just revert to Mike Babcock. That's what happens.
Babcock comes out. He's a good player.
Really great. Anyway, I wanted to touch on, you guessed it, the Revs, just for a minute, because they have one of the biggest games this season coming up this Saturday night, 7:30, Gillette Stadium. Be there. I will, actually.
Or be square.
Thank you. It's gotten to the point where this Revs team that I didn't even watch at the start of the season has me parting with my hard-earned money to watch them play soccer games.
Appointment entertainment.
It is now. So they won. No, you haven't won 10 in a row. That'd be nuts. They are unbeaten in 10 games in a row. That equals their club record. So this Saturday they go for 11 to set a new franchise best against the far and away best team in the league, the LAFC, one of the new expansion teams in the MLS. You look at them, they have 49 points, which is good for an 11-point lead down in the Western Conference. And then you look at the Philadelphia Union, who are leading the Eastern Conference right now. They only have 39 points. So LAFC way up there. Meanwhile, you look at the Revs. They're clinging on to the 7th spot right now in the East with 33 points, tied with the Impact for 6th as well. So just off on goal differential there with -5, I guess. Yeah, just reading the MLS standings to you out loud. Really, great audio here. But it's exciting for the Revs right now. If you make a statement win right here against LAFC, it's a statement. And that's a sentence. So we'll see how this goes. But I'm excited to be there. It should be good. It should be popping down at the old Gillette with with just a third of the stadium full. That'll be good.
I mean, well, no matter the result, I mean, you're playing top team in the MLS versus one of the hottest teams in the MLS.
That's why it's exciting.
It's gonna be a good game.
It will be a good game. So that'll be fun. Maybe you could even tune in there, Patrick.
Either way you slice it. Well, I might be committed at work. Big tournament this weekend, but
big tournament this weekend.
Shout out to all the caddies out there again.
No big golf tournaments this weekend, right? PGA?
No, I mean Brooks Koepka.
Oh yes, go ahead. Never mind.
Non-major, and the only thing I really have to say on it is, I mean, the definition of backing up his words when he just says he doesn't try in non-majors. Rory McIlroy had the lead. I think Brooks was either tied or a couple back going into Sunday. Rory showed up 2 hours before their tee time. Brooks showed up 45 minutes before the tee time.
Oh, God.
Hit balls in the range, probably sprinted, hustled to the tee. And Brooks just ran away with it, and Rory shot a very pedestrian 1 over. Kind of made Rory look like a little schoolboy out there. But I mean, Brooks Koepka just backing up his words and actually winning a non-major.
There you go.
And I mean, take it for what you will. It was a WGC field of 60 players, top 60 in the world. And I mean, Tiger wasn't there, so obviously someone outside the top 60 got invited. I'm sure it was like that in a couple other scenarios where guys in the top 60 don't go. And there's no cut because of how small the field is. So, I mean, but still, it was a World Golf Championship. Nothing to scoff at.
There you go. Right off the back of the British Open.
Yep. Where he came right out and said nobody's striking the ball better than him this week. He just couldn't putt.
Always. Oh, well.
That's I got on Brooks.
You're what?
That's all I got on Brooks.
That's all you got on Brooks. Well, there's always a Brooks update these days. He's just he's becoming entertaining, believe it or not. Brooks Koepka, and entertaining. Who knew? Anyway, that's might be all we have, Patrick. I want to give you a quick update here on the NFL Top 100 as it winds down a little bit. There are 9 minutes left, 8 minutes now in the show, but we're not going to wait for that because that would be very bad podcasting on our part. But it looks like the top 5 players here, regardless of order, this is not any specific order, looks like it'll be Tom Brady, Khalil Mack, Drew Brees, Aaron Donald, Patrick Mahomes. So I'm going to put you on the spot here, Patrick. I'd like to hear your top 5 ranking of those guys. I'll come up with mine, too.
All right. Well,
do you want to start at the top or the bottom?
I'm just putting there. I don't think 3 quarterbacks should be in the top 5, but I guess that's just the result of Le'Veon Bell sitting out half the year last year, and David Johnson just falling off the face of the earth.
Yeah.
And where's Todd Gurley? But anyways, top 5 of those guys, Aaron Donald has to be 1. In my book, Tom Brady goes 2, followed by Khalil Mack, then Patrick Mahomes, then Drew Brees.
Okay.
The top 5, but that's just me. I think Todd Gurley should probably be there instead.
Really? He was useless at the end for the Rams. I don't know. I think, okay. So the way I would do this, I don't know. I hate to say it. Tom Brady, really lucky to be in the top 5 here. I know he got 1 last year, but the season that he had in 2018 feels like it's not even worthy of top 20. But, whatever he won football games, he won another Super Bowl. He made the throws when he needed to. And that's strictly what's getting him in the top 5. So I'm placing him right there at number 5. Still love you, Tommy. Don't worry. But can't see him beating these other guys. Right after him, I'd go Drew Brees. I feel like he had a better offensive year last year than Tom Brady. So I'd go Brady, Brees. Next, I'd put Khalil Mack, number 3. I think he was a real impact player for the Bears, and will do the same this season. And then number 2, I'm going Mahomes. Again, it pains me to say this. It pains me to say this, but he was just the most dynamic offensive player in the league last year. And he's, cocky and a show-off and whatever I've always said. But he made things happen and made the Chiefs a real danger throughout the entire season. It's now 8-2 Rays. Why do I even have this up? Number 1, of course, Aaron Donald. He's just been so good for so long. What can you say? Still number 1.
If you put Mahomes 1, I don't know what I would have done with you. I probably would have hung up.
Oh, wow. Well, you're going to have to do that shortly because we're pretty much wrapping up here. Do you have any further notes to enlighten us with?
I have nothing.
You have nothing at all other than a yearning urge to go to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we'll call it there. This is one of our quickest episodes ever, right around 45 minutes, Patrick. I know that we have had some listeners. I hear the feedback, Patrick. We've had some listeners who want us to shorten it a little bit, bring it down. Sometimes we have too much to talk about, and we kind of get carried away. We go 110, 115, especially when we have guests in. but it is good to sometimes keep it a little bit quicker like we did today. And so maybe, those listening at home, if you can give us some feedback, let us know, do you like the short ones with the kind of more, speedy going through the subjects, or do you like when we slow it down a little bit, have more in-depth conversations, but it takes a little longer? Let us know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Had to throw that in there. Anything before we hang up, Patrick?
No.
I was expecting some words of wisdom there, but it's what it is.
Wish I could offer something, but my brain is mush.
That's all right. Well, we will call it there. As always, everyone, we thank you so much for listening to the Beantown Banter podcast, and we will see you next week.